On Monday, February 11, 2019, a clergy open house was held at the East Chicago Police Department. The goal was to invite clergy of all denominations and churches to come together and hear the department's initiatives and work together through shared dialogue to address the needs of the community, particularly our youth. The very informative meeting brought awareness to the many new programs that will help keep the residents, especially the children, of East Chicago safe and empowered with knowledge. For more information, contact the East Chicago Police Department at 219-391-8400.
Thank you guys for all coming out and supporting us. We really appreciate you because so many times, personally as a chief, I've called on ministers and they've always helped me, gave me good advice, prayed for me, which is the number one thing I ask for, and I think that's what keeps me uplifted and keeps me going in this job. It's just my faith in God. So thank you folks for coming out, first of all, and I'm going to turn it over to him now, all right?
Good morning. Like I said, Deputy Chief Hector Rosario here at the Police Department. Basically, like you said, we're just trying to bridge that gap. You know, we know sometimes people confide in you a lot more than they confide in us. They'll tell you guys stuff before they'll come and tell us, so trying to just bridge that gap and hoping that we could extend our hand, and as well as you guys extend your hand back to us. If you guys need anything, that's what we're here for. I have a couple of guest speakers, Lieutenant Jose Rivera, who will talk more about the patrol aspect, what he does on a day-to-day operation and what services they can provide for you guys. And also Acting Sergeant Justin Orange. He's helping get this program running with an autism bracelet or a special needs bracelet for people that have special needs, so we can help identify them a little better when we go on calls instead of approaching them the wrong way. At least we'll have a heads up of what problems they're facing in their life and how we need to approach them and whatnot. And also Mr. Jefferson, who's going to talk about the truancy program that they're trying to implement here in the city. We're hoping that maybe you guys can have a little input on that, as well as talking to these parents, making sure their kids are going to school and all that good stuff. So without further ado, I'll introduce Lieutenant Jose Rivera. Like I said, he's going to talk real quick about the patrol aspect of our department.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Jose Rivera. I'm the lieutenant for the patrol division here at the police department. One of the things that, as far as a lieutenant, as far as what I do, is I supervise the guys that you guys see on the street. So every day, the people that, or the officers that you guys will deal with on a day-to-day basis is one of the shifts that I supervise. So currently on my midnights, one of the things that we do is, again, we answer all 911 calls, we answer non-emergency calls, we respond to the schools, and anything from non-emergency to emergency. As far as what we can do for you guys is when you guys call us and say you get an officer that goes to you because you needed something, either somebody from your congregation or you needed something, and you call the officer and for some reason you don't agree with what the officer has to say. That's where we step in as supervisors. We always tell people, don't argue with the officer. 99.9% of the times, never going to admit that they're wrong. They're always right in their head. That's where the supervisors come in. That's where you got to come to us, request a supervisor. They cannot deny a supervisor. There's 24 hours a day. There's one, if not even two, supervisors working at all times. There's a sergeant that's on the streets with the officers, and then there's either a lieutenant or an acting lieutenant in the building or also out there with them as well. So if it's something that you're not happy with, or you think you need a little bit more assistance, go to a supervisor. We have that permission. We can grant you whatever you guys need, as far as if you need additional officers, if you need a report or something that somebody in your congregation needs, and maybe you want to speak to us instead of an officer. Maybe it's a little bit more private, and you want to deal with us. We're always available. So a supervisor is always available. They'll never let nobody tell you that we're not. Okay, so again, our main goal is to make sure that the officers do what they're supposed to be doing. So if you're not happy with something that an officer has done, and I'm not saying that the officer was maybe wrong, maybe he just didn't know, please call us. Don't feel like you're bothering us, because that's what we're here for. We're here to monitor them. A lot of times we're not going to be at the scene. So if the officer's there and he's telling you one thing, but you feel in your heart, you know what? No, I think a little bit more can be done. Remember, we're not there, so we're not listening to the conversation. The magic words are, can you have a supervisor show up, a sergeant or a lieutenant? Or can I have the number to their office? Because if we're not in the streets, we're in the office, and we will show up. We're not going to tell you no. So one of us will show up and address the problem, whether it's the complaint on the officer or it's just something that you needed more done. And that's 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Don't worry about what time. I've had people call us and say, why do I bother? Because the officer was late at night. And this happened late at night, and I didn't want to bother somebody. Well, we're out late at night with them. So if the officer's out, the supervisor's out as well. So don't worry about what time of the day it is. Probably one of the biggest things concerns we have when it comes with any of the churches would be parking complaints is what we get as far as what they need assistance with. We have no problem dealing with that. It's pretty minor. We tend not to ticket or cite vehicles that are parked in yellow zones during church or blocking. We ignore stuff like that. We can. We have that right. All right. So we have the discretion to do stuff like that. We understand some churches have a bigger congregation than others, and they might not have the parking lot to fill all those. Or if there's a funeral and you don't have enough room to have those all those vehicles there, call us if you feel that maybe an officer drove by. We got a lot of rookies, so they might drive by and say, "Oh, this car is illegally parked. It's double parked. Or it's here." They're not being mean. They're being overzealous. Call us, and we can deal with that. Especially with something like that, we make exceptions for certain things. So please don't hesitate to call us. I can give you my office number, which is for every supervisor 24 hours a day, and it's 219-391-8446. Or you can just call non-emergency and ask to request to speak to a supervisor, and we'll contact you if you leave a callback number. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, anything, please feel free to reach out to us, because that's our job to reach back out to you guys. And then if you're not happy with our response, that's one of two bosses right here. Deputy Chief to my right, Chief to the left. We try to handle everything before it even gets to them. Most of the time, it's pretty much taken care of before it even makes it to them. Believe me, the last thing I needed to be bothering them if I can take care of it myself, because more than likely, I'm gonna have to do it anyway. So it's not like, if I do something wrong, they're gonna say, "Hey, you did something wrong, correct it." So we try to get to the bottom of it, just from our level, from a sergeant and lieutenant standpoint. So again, if anybody has any questions or comments, I'll still be here to the end of this program, but we're more than happy to help you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody got any questions for the lieutenant right now? Acting Sergeant Justin Orange, like I said, he's going to talk a little bit about the special needs bracelet that we're trying to implement here in the city. I'll turn it over to Justin Orange.
And before go ahead, keep going. Before we get started, I just want to say something in reference to the autism program. So many times when there's children or young adults or even adults with autism and mental illness, police departments are called, and when we're called, we have to react. And sometimes we do get it wrong. The reason this program is implemented is to try to help the Chicago Police Department get it right. We've had mandatory training already in reference to this, and we will have additional training in the future. So I'm hoping that this is going to make a difference in the city of Chicago. We'll be getting more information in the future, so when we go to some of these calls or go to some of these homes, we'll know that individual or that person that we need to more or less try to help, instead of maybe having to do harm. We never know until we arrive what may happen, but we want to make sure that we've taken every possible avenue to get it right and to correct it and help this individual. So that's what this new program is all about to us. Okay, thank you. Come on.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Acting Sergeant Justin Orange. I'm a shift supervisor on one of the shifts opposite of Lieutenant Rivera. What you guys have in front of you is a program that we will be trying to implement here in the next couple of months. We came across this program from one of our neighboring police neighboring police departments in Oak Brook, Illinois. This program came about when some of the social media that goes along with being a police officer kind of went bad when a police officer had an encounter with an autistic kid, and the autistic kid wound up passing away. The police officer wound up shooting the autistic kid because he didn't have the know of being able to interact with a young man with autism. It kind of hits home for me because I'm a father of an autistic kid, so I know that when my son comes in contact with the police, I don't want that encounter to go south. And a lot of it is, like the chief said, a lot of it is just training. A lot of it is us taking a step back, kind of assessing the situation, seeing if something could be wrong with this young man or young woman, and then us going about the interaction totally different than what we would if somebody was being just belligerent or somebody was just, not complying with what the officer tells them to do. So in conjunction with Deputy Chief and the Chief, Mayor Copeland, and North Township Trustee Frank Mervan, we came up with a program that will give children, adults with special needs and autism a bracelet. That bracelet will have an identification number on it. So if we were ever to come in contact with this kid has this, it's going to be a bright lime green bracelet. That number, it'll have a number attached to that bracelet. We'll be able to call our E911 dispatch and we'll be able to say, hey, I'm dealing with a kid with one of our bracelets. He has number 15, and then that number will coincide with that kid's next of kin, emergency contact number, what that kid suffers from. It'll also have some ways for us to de-escalate the situation. For example, my son, who has autism, he's in love with SpongeBob. So if I know I'm dealing with a young man who has autism or special needs, and I can bridge the gap between him and me with SpongeBob, everybody got a smartphone, I can turn SpongeBob on and try to get this kid calm in order for the next of kin or the family member to be able to come, and we can kind of de-escalate the situation. Attached to this, if you have any members of your, the school for, Ms. Wright and Mr. Jefferson, or any members of your congregation or your parish, there's a information form attached to this paper that I gave you. You can always make some copies, give it to the members of the church, and they can bring it up to the police station in confidence. They can fold it up, put it in the envelope. They can give it to us, and we can enroll them in this program. We're probably going to try to have this out and about probably in the next couple of months. So we're trying to get as many families as we possibly can to sign up. And once we get it signed up, it'll be a master list made, given to our E911 dispatch, and it'll coincide with these people that are wearing these bracelets. And hopefully we can turn a lot of bad encounters to good encounters when they come in contact with the police. God knows we don't need any more bad press. So that's all I have. If you guys got any questions, you can, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a question. Actually, I have two. Number one, is there a fee for any of this?
Nope, absolutely free.
And is it just limited to autism?
Well, right now we're trying to gear it towards the kids with autism, but eventually it'll widen, and we will have it where we also, would like to give it to people who have Alzheimer's, dementia, because these are people who sometimes wander away from home, and the only way we can identify them is maybe with this bracelet. So, go ahead.
And one more. So once they're in the system, is it available to all the police departments?
Yes, it will be.
Mm-hmm. And just to touch base on what he said, we started small with the autism, but eventually, like he said, missing kids, we want to exploit it, mental illness. There's a number of other issues, but we took this one first. We want to get this right, run with it, and then we'll explore going to other avenues, and we'll go forward with that. But definitely, hopefully in the future, we'll have it all linked, all connected, so we can eliminate some of the problems in the future that we've had in the past.
And I have to interject. So I'm Justin Orange's wife. Vanessa, her name is Orange, and he also worked with the school. The program also worked within the schools. The school district, Tammy Cole, was also in on this program, and we have the sheets. So if the parents in your congregation can't get to, the churches, we have them in the schools. We have them at our administration building so that anyone could pick them up. The point is, Tammy Cole's also had meetings within the families for families to come out. We're not getting the families to come to the meetings. So if you guys need something from us to help with the police to make sure we get this out to your congregations on Sundays, that'd be great, simply because we want this to work. So we want people to sign up for it. And I think it's not where we want it to be full. And Ms. Wright maybe can help me with this, she's our principal at the high school, but our special needs within the school is very high. And just like my son, you look at my son, he looks plain as day, normal. Never would have thought that he had any special needs, but he does. So this is why it's very important for people who have families or have anyone in the family with the special needs, so that we can protect our children, ourselves, and our police. We don't want, like my husband said, to have any issues or be on the media for not respecting the well-being of someone.
On behalf of the superintendent, I'll make sure that I get this information to her so she can distribute it to all the rest of the building principals. But we would definitely make sure that when we go back to the building today, that we will contact the teachers that work with the autistic kids to make sure that they get their forms today. But I'll make sure I relay this message to the superintendent.
Well, I was thinking, I'm with the hospital here, St. Catherine's, but I wonder if they can also offer this in the hospital when the kids are diagnosed or something, or they go in, or Alzheimer's or something like that. I guess they could offer it to the patients right there, or to their families when they're there.
Quick question, who would we speak to about distributing that information?
Let me go back, I'll talk to my director, her name is Teresa Pedrosa.
Okay.
And then we'll try to, probably end up talking to the CEO, Leo Pereira.
Okay.
But let me find out who worked with this, because this is good, especially if they go through there anyway. I know they just give it to them, or offer it at least to the families.
Any other questions? At this time, I'll bring Mr. Jefferson up to talk about the truancy program that they're trying to implement here in the city.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Marcus Jefferson. I come to you first as a concerned citizen of the great city of Chicago. Born and raised here. My family's been here for now 4 generations. And what I'm presenting to you all today is Project Second Start. It is a research-based program that was implemented in the city of Gary, Indiana. Going back to probably 2011, 2012, there were 2 failing high schools that the state of Indiana chose to take over. That was Indianapolis Arlington High School and the great Gary Roosevelt High School, 25th Harrison. At the time, Edison Learning received the contract from the state to come in and be a takeover school at that time. At that time, I was employed as the truant officer of Gary Roosevelt, which is now Theodore College and Career Academy. I served as the truant officer there for about 4 years, and in that time I improved the overall attendance rate from 7th through 12th grade by at least 45%, which is pretty much outstanding. What they correlated is that due to the lack of attendance in the schools in the city of Gary, created a trend of uneducated young Black, Latin females within the city of Gary, and the correlation between uneducated young people created a high increase in crime. At one point in time, I believe Gary was considered to be the murder capital of the country per capita based upon population. Since that program has been implemented there at the Theodore Roosevelt College and Career Academy, right now in Northwest Indiana, they're the only school within the urban population to receive an academic grade as an A by the Board of Education, or the State of Indiana Board of Education. And I would like to think that the truancy program played a great deal in that school receiving the letter grade of an A. What I have presented to you guys today, I've met with several members of the community, schools, the mayor, and this is pretty much what we've covered over the past couple of meetings from the month of, I believe, December and January. We're set to meet again on February 20th, which is the 3rd Thursday of the month. My prior background is, like I said, I'm a citizen of this community. I was educated at Cary Gosh Elementary. I went on to Westside Middle School and on to East Chicago Central High School. As a junior, I left the community and went out to Fitchburg, Massachusetts, which is a neighboring city close to Boston. At that time, I played sports. I received a scholarship to play basketball at Providence College in Providence, Rhode Island. I left there and came back to Iowa State, which is in Ames, Iowa, where I studied sociology. So I'm very data-driven, and I believe this program is desperately necessary. Still being active in this community, over the summer, I work with the Parks and Rec Department. I am the sports coordinator over that program over the summer, over all the local centers. Martin Luther King, Heritage Hall, Bessie Owens, Roberto Clemente, Roxana, and those other entities. So I'm very involved in the community. Currently, I am the Dean of Students at the high school, East Chicago Central. I am also the head boys basketball coach. Growing up, my mom always instilled in me that if you make it out, it's your responsibility and your duty to come back and help someone else. And I believe that is my role, that is my purpose of being a servant of this community. As a young black man in this community, I believe I beat the odds. You open the newspapers, you click on NWI Times, you see a lot of things that are going on in our community involving young black and brown males who all end up being victimized to gun violence. I believe that if these young people, with the support of the local law enforcement, the local courts, that we can put a program together that actually holds the parents accountable to make sure that their children are in school. The Indiana state law says that throughout the course of a year, no student can miss more than 9 days. Otherwise, they will not meet the 95% attendance rate. And there's mountains of research that shows that a student that does not receive a high school diploma, majority of them will end up at some point in time spending time in jail and being incarcerated, which is a burden on the taxpayers and which is also a detriment to our community. Sadly to say, there was a young man who lost his life on Saturday. I knew this young man. He was a student of our high school. I believe he graduated, but he was a victim of gun violence. About 3 months ago, there was another young man, Isaiah Pena, right here behind Main Street. He was a victim of gun violence. And I still have younger cousins here, and it weighs heavy on my heart to know that a lot of these young males are ended up being victimized of gun violence due to the fact that they're turning to illegal opportunities and ends up allowing them to become victimized due to simple means of trying to provide food, clothing, and shelter for them and their families. I believe we can educate them, at least with a high school diploma, that can be a start. I believe we live in an industrial mega complex within the city, and that we can somehow give these young people basic skills. Showing up to school, just like showing up to the job, is the first thing. If you don't show up to school, we can't educate you. You can't show up to your job, you can't complete the task at hand. And I believe this program is a start. Actually, it's titled Second Start because there's a breakdown within the home between the parent and the child for whatever reason. And therefore, as early as elementary or pre-K schools, that you can see the trend of absenteeism, which leads to them being educated due to the fact that they are unable to read, write, and fail to be able to do simple math calculations. So with that being said, I presented this to you all to look over at the moment. Take it home, look over it, review it. And if there are any questions, I'm prepared to answer any questions you all may have at this time. Okay. Well, thank you all for...
Brother Jefferson, one of our concerns as pastors in this community is after graduation, we don't have much to offer our youth. As our president, Pastor Johnson, we talk about it a lot in our meetings, why people are leaving East Chicago, a great city also, but we don't have anything to offer our youth. And pastoring almost 10 years, once my seniors graduated, they left East Chicago and they didn't come back. And so there's a change, and it's something that has to be done. We have to look in different directions to see what we can offer, because their grades is not to the point where they can actually go to college, but in the process, we still have to have something to offer them because they have to stay right here in the city of East Chicago.
I agree. I do a lot of brainstorming. I have a lot of ideas. I can't share them all with you at this time, but there's a location here within this city that I believe is a great site for a career center. Back when I attended school here, there was the East Chicago Career Center, which is now the Della Garza Center of Ivy Tech. But we talk about hope. A lot of our young people, they live on a day-to-day basis, from hand to mouth. A lot of them take risks to feed their families. But I believe in barbers, cosmetology, auto mechanics, carpentry, plumbing, HVAC, electrical. These are all opportunities that you can have, or apprenticeships that you can develop and get jobs within this city. It gives you a great sense of independence. You can go into your own private practice or your own private business and provide for yourself, because I believe a lot of risks that these young men take, primarily young men, they take because I believe every man has the ambition to want to be a provider. And in efforts to want to be a provider, you take advantage of the opportunity that's there for you, which a lot of times lead to illegal activity. You don't need a degree to sell drugs. You need a degree to sell guns. You don't need any of that. And that stuff is readily available in just about every urban, impoverished community within this country. This is why the problems are the same everywhere you look in this country. But I have some great ideas, speaking with the mayor, some of the city council members. I believe we can put that together. What I'm suggesting is, if a student is truant and they come before the courts, the judge has the power to order these young people and their families to parenting classes, to restore and rebuild their relationship within the household, and also order them to other programs that we have lined up in efforts of helping these children become educated, and then after that, the process offering them other opportunities as far as trades, to where they can actually go on and provide a legitimate livelihood for themselves and for their families.
Pastor, I'm sorry, I wanted to touch on that. You said about the future. Currently from the schools, I think I introduced myself as being my husband, or that's Justin, my husband. I'm also a school board member. Currently the president of the board. And I think one thing that we have that's going on, and it's really Abe Brown. He is the director of the CTE department, and we actually have came to the city. City has done a job fair here at the police station, and we've actually made a lot of contacts through the contact of them coming, where we've ended up going to get scholarships for students for welding programs. They've also they're working on business, if I'm not mistaken, business classes within the CTE program. And they also, we have a partnership with St. Catherine's Hospital for our for nursing. In other words, they go in, they do a couple hours, and they're able to get some hours underneath their belt for to make the process smooth over, to see if they want to be in the hospitals. So I know that's something we've definitely been working on. Coach Brown, being from the community, understanding the fact that opportunity, he does a great job actually following up and following through with people from the area to help. We've tried to reach out to BP, as well as Arsenal Middle does do a program, and I don't think we've actually combined yet, but it's still a goal to keep pushing forward. And the more people let us know, hey, this is what we need, then this is something we can fight for. When it came to this truancy program, Marcus Jefferson, his program that he is put together, to me, is amazing. One of our biggest problems in the school city is our students not going to school. We fail there very often. I've sat with the ministers before and just told them, hey, we're in a room. The people are in a room. You have the mayor, you have school board, you have Marcus's program, you have the principals, you have council people, you have the judge, who are finally able to come together. We're going to make this happen for our community, because we fail our grades. Kids are not sitting down, they're not learning, so they get pushed back, and they continue to get pushed back, and we're trying to move forward. Our grades can't change unless the kids aren't in the schools. It's not their fault. Most of these kids who are not going to school are younger age children, but parents have to go to school, so they kind of just leave them there. Or the older kids say, hey, you know what, you have to stay with grandma, or you have to stay with the younger kids, so that's why they stay. It's a big problem within our school district. Marcus Jefferson, I went to school with him. He's a product from here. Super proud of him. Thankful for getting everybody in the room, including the police officers. One thing that I heard when I was in that room was we have police officers at all of our buildings, and they said, we're disposed to whatever you guys need. And I think that's important. We're not, and being from working from there, the police officers are not there just to be like, no, don't do this, don't do that. They're actually talking to them. My husband, I used to watch them chit chat and joke. They would find out stuff just from making a relationship. And I think that's where we end up thinking they're negative in the school building, but our police officers are really not. I worked at Hammond, and some don't even make the time out to say hello. I definitely believe that our police officers do that. And I cannot speak highly enough of this program and of Marcus for getting everyone in the same room to continue to get this done. And in the schools, I think we're trying to find a way to move forward and give our community, our students, something to look forward to. So thanks, Marcus.
Thank you.
Per usual.
Yes,
Deanna Wright, the principal of Central, and what I will say, two things, is that Mr. Brown and I are working diligently to collaborate more with industry-based jobs that target our males. For example, welding, heating, cooling units, construction, manufacturing. So we're in the process now of putting together a plan that would target those jobs that are for our males. I remember when I was at Central, we used to have what we call wood shop. And we had wood shop, and it showed the kids how to cut wood. If the kids learned carpentry skills, we don't have that anymore. So we are working diligently. So the plan is for next year, starting next year, that we have a solid plan for those guys. So possibly when they leave high school, if worst case scenario, they can go to Ivy Tech and get a 2-year degree and then get a job, or either go to what is it that they called a trade,
technical school.
Technical school, yes. So that's the first thing. The second thing I want to talk about is attendance. I was the principal at Block Middle School for 3 years, and then this is my first year at Central. So the reason why attendance is so very important, well, actually it's important, as Mr. Jefferson stated, in elementary school, because research says that if a kid misses 10 school days per year, then they're prone to be behind at least 1 year. So think about it. If a kid from kindergarten to 3rd grade has missed 30 days of school, they're pretty much already 2 years behind. So now we're playing the catch-up game. So now we get kids in 3rd grade who really only have no first grade standards. So from 3rd grade all the way up until 12th grade, we're playing catch-up. And what I can say right now is, we're doing the best that we can, but we need some more support and some more resources. On average, the kids in this district, on average, are at least 2 years behind. That's what the data shows. They're 2 years behind. One of the main reasons is because of attendance. So in middle school, it's a little bit easier to get kids to come to school. High school, the biggest caveat for high school is that if kids have to take this I-STEP test. And when they take this I-STEP test, they have to pass both math and ELA to get a high school diploma. And we have about 40 kids in this predicament right now. So if the kids do not pass the I-STEP, then I have to apply for a waiver from the state for these kids. The only way the state will even consider giving these kids a waiver if they have a 95% attendance rate. A 95% attendance rate in 4 years means that you could have only missed 37 days. So those kids who have not passed the I-STEP, probably because they had attendance problems from kindergarten on, so they're behind, so they can't pass the I-STEP, then they continue not to come to school. We're looking at 25% of the population not being able to have a high school diploma because we can't even apply for a waiver. We cannot ask the state, can you get us a waiver when the kid has not come to school? So Marcus' program it covers so many bases for the school city of East Chicago and for the community, because that means that if you have 25% of our seniors who do not graduate, that means that they're going to be walking the streets causing problems. 70% of all the people in jail do not have a high school diploma. So the minimum that we can do for our kids, is to make sure that they get a high school diploma. They have to come to school. It doesn't start in high school. It starts way before high school. So Marcus' program would be that program that would show the parents that A, you're held accountable for making sure that your kids come to school, and 2, we'll bring the police with us if we need to. I think those kids will be coming to school. So I totally support this program. I think there's so many advantages to it that the long-term advantages are just so enormous that we cannot afford not to have a attendance program if we want to take the city to a higher level. And I'll answer any questions that you all may have about attendance and students, but kids have to be in school if they're going to learn. It's absolute. That's the minimum that we should expect from a kid. That's the bare minimum that we should expect from a kid, because if a kid is not in school, they are not learning. And I'm gonna take it a step further, and then I'm gonna stop talking. I just start rounding off. So what happens if a kid is 2 years behind in their class? They go to class and the teacher's teaching algebra, and they don't know their multiplications. What happens to that kid? That kid is going to become a discipline problem. Because I'd rather sit there and be a clown than not show people that I don't know my multiplication. So not coming to school causes kids not to learn. In addition, it causes behavior issues. Then it causes kids to be suspended and expelled. And then you all see them out on the streets behaving the same way. But it started a long time ago. And we have gone back to look at some of this research. You know, when I was in the middle school, I would ask the elementary principals, was he like this? He's been like this ever since 2nd grade. Why? Because he did not have the skills he needed. Most kids who have the skills that they need to succeed in school are not behavior issues. Those are the kids that don't come to the office, they're not tardy, they sit in class, they do their work. Majority of the kids that we had problems with and the kids who do not come to school, it's a direct correlation. So whatever we need to do to support this program, I think we just have to make sure that this happens.
Could I ask a question? Have you got approval to start it, or are you trying to start it? Because it sounds like something that is already being done in other cities. I just had one of the members of the church, her son was having a problem with not going to school. She was in court last week. And after the court, she was threatening if he's not starting attending school, not only are he's going to be in trouble, but you're going to be in trouble.
Absolutely.
And one thing she made clear, we're going to make sure he gets to school from this day on.
Absolutely.
Okay? So it's a serious matter. It's been in Maryville for years.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and it's something are you trying to get it in East Chicago, or you got approval to start it in East Chicago?
We've been meeting every month for the past couple of months. We're going to meet every month up until the end of the school year, and it's projected to begin at the beginning of the 2019-2020 school year.
It's already approved to start. You don't have any roadblock that's stopping you from getting the program in.
As of right now, the people that we need to support the program are all on board, and we are meeting as a committee every third Thursday of every month at City Hall, and that the next meeting will be February 20th. So I was the truant officer.
21st month.
I'm sorry, February 21st. I was the truant officer at Gary Roosevelt, and this is how I became pretty much an expert of the Indiana State Code as far as attendance rates, and working with Judge Deidre Monroe in the Gary City Courts. So this is how I become privy of all this information.
Yeah, I think it's a good program. I mean, somebody has to be held accountable. But you know, we're in a day and time where both parents have to go to work today in order to make a living, in order to put food on the table, you know. So, and if my mom and my dad gone before I get up to go to school, then I got a good chance of not going and would be back home before them, you know. Who knows, you know, unless somebody else has got to have a tracking system on those kids, you know. And for me, I came from, when I was raised up, I came from a small town in Arkansas. And not only the thing there, the teachers knew my parents. When I messed up, they were at my house, you know, because they cared for me, about me for one thing, and they knew I needed education, and we all knew each other. I mean, I know we're living in a whole different day and time, but it's just not a one person problem. You know, when a parent has to go to work, it can't stay home and watch the kid. I mean, it can't afford to miss a day. I mean, I raising my kids, I couldn't afford to miss a day. I mean, if I missed a day, I missed a bill. you know, so it is a twofold thing, well, threefold actually, so there's a lot of problems there that need to be corrected, you know, that is my opinion.
I've seen those cases, working with the courts. I've seen those cases where that's what the parent is saying. I walk out the house at 6 o'clock. My child has the expectation to go to school. There are different efforts and attempts that we make to contact the parent, whether it be through phone calls, whether it be through notarized letters, whether it's having the parent come in and sign contracts explaining why the kid is late or why the kid is absent. But in the family courts of the city of Gary, what happens is the parent comes in and plead their case. Judge, Your Honor, I'm out the house at this time. He or she knows what he or she's supposed to do. He or she is of age, and the judge holds the student accountable at that time, not the parent. But if it's a breakdown with the parent not being accountable for the child, the parent is held accountable. And this is why certain things like parenting classes are presented, or just other programs, extracurricular activities to get the kids motivated to want to learn. I know myself, when I was in high school, basketball motivated me. A lot of my buddies, that were involved in sports ended up getting scholarships and beat the odds of falling prey and victim to the streets. He knows primarily. And I'm one of the ones that beat the odds. And out of some of the communities I've worked in, primarily Gary, I would tell the students, I can help you all day. I may not be able to show you or tell you how to get out of Gary, Indiana, but I definitely can show you how to get out of East Chicago if you want to make a better life for yourself. So it's pretty much, haven't been too much, I haven't seen an education in attendance through the court systems.
And what happens is, you know, being in the middle school, when we had kids that were chronically absent, we would contact DCFS, and unfortunately, I must say that pretty much nothing really ever happened. They would maybe call a parent, but it wasn't anything effective that they did to make sure that those kids showed up at school. I believe that collaboration between the police department and the school district, and that police showing up at that door and you having to go to court, I believe a lot of kids, even the parents who do their best to make sure that their kids come to school, but they don't, I think that would scare the kids as well as the parents. The kids would realize, oh, this is serious. And not only that, the kids would think, oh, they must really care about us because they're doing a whole awful lot to make sure that we are in school. And if we start changing the culture of these little bitty kids to understand that school attendance is important, we're going to make sure that you're in school. If not, we're going to have safeguards to make sure that you're in school. Hopefully, by the time they get to high school, it's a culture, it's a mindset that they already realize, I need to be in school.
One question. I know the report cards have been mailed to the homes now.
Yes.
When we know a kid is failing, what's the response from the parents as far as coming up? Because when we came up, they needed to see our report card, and as Marcus said, if you want to play sports, you had to have a certain grade point. You just couldn't join the team. You have to remain passing your classes, and people kept up with that. How's the response with the parents as far as they're concerned on, I haven't seen the report card from my kids, and then at the last minute, now your kid's not graduating. Why your senior year? Why haven't you been concerned your freshman, sophomore, junior year? You know, because it's a major drop.
Oh, absolutely. We're at the high school this year. I can only speak for this year. Every time that we get progress reports every 4 weeks. So we have what we call an automated school system. So the night before or the day of the progress reports, we send an automated phone call out to let the parents know, parents, your child will be receiving their progress report. We encourage you all to make sure that you all review the progress report. If you have any concerns, please make sure you contact the teachers. We also do the same thing for report cards, because in the middle school it used to be kind of funny because kids don't take report cards home. So we put the onus on the parents. We told you that you're getting this report card or this progress report. So if you choose not to ask your kid for it, then you can't come back to us and say, why isn't my kid participating in even 8th grade graduation? Because they did not have at least a 2.0 GPA in 8th grade, because we want you all to get into the habit of passing your classes so you will be able to graduate from high school. So I had said that I was going to do some research. Look at the number of kids that did not graduate in from 8th grade, participate in the ceremony, and look at the 12th grade year. That's just gonna be some little research that I wanted to do. But we notify the parents every step of the way. Even at Central, this school year, we noticed that we had a lot of kids that they would just show up to school whenever they wanted to. It drove me crazy. Marcus would tell me, he could attest to it. It drove me crazy. They would walk in, and school starts at 7:30. They would come in at 7:50, 8:15, 8:30. It drove me crazy. I was ready to lose my mind. So what we started doing was, if you walked in late, you had to have a parent escort. Okay, so if you have a parent escort, then we notify the parent, your kid has missed first hour. Your kid is late. Then we got some parents that get so bold they will pull up to the front of school, drop the kids off, and speed off. We start putting them on overnight suspensions. So that means that your kid still can't come back to school until you come back in and talk to us why your kid keeps showing up for school at 8:15, 9 o'clock, 9:30. So we have at the high school a lot of parent contact. So parents cannot say this year, I can't speak on what happened last year, but they cannot say, we didn't know. Do not come up to the school June 9th complaining and fussing and arguing with me, because I'm going to call the police. Be ready. That little Johnny is not graduating because you knew way back in September. So we make sure that we have a collaborative effort at Central.
So you all don't, I know when I came up, the doors was locked at a certain time. All the students had to be in. And if they wasn't, you had to go to the front office. But I know at Central ain't really too many ways to go in. It's through the main office, right? I mean,
so school starts at 7:30. The kids after second hour, I believe that's 9:10. If they haven't shown up at 9, from 7:30 to 9:10, they're late. They have to come through door W. And we have what we call a late room, and that's the room when the kids have to come in and be escorted with their parents. And they're really angry at me. They have some names for me. But anyway, after then they have to come through the front office. But we have a designated door for the kids to come after school after 7:40 actually, 7:40 to 9:15.
I want to ask another question, and I'm not accusing anybody, but I want to know why are we East Chicago is so far behind in all of these programs? Because all of these programs has been going on in other schools for years. I mean, why are we so far behind? And I live in Maryville. All right? My kids went to school in Maryville. If my kid is not in school an hour when school starts, I get a phone call letting me know, hey, your kid is not in school. You know, what's up? You know, every time when they be sick and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I should have called and let them know. But if they're not there, and if they can't, if they're late, then I would have to take them. You know, these programs it's like a dinosaur. And why we're so far behind in Chicago are these programs that's been going on in every city right around us for years.
Well, I've been back in East Chicago within the education system for probably 3 years. It took for me to go out to get this information, this knowledge, to come back and bring it back in. And that's what I'm trying to do myself, along with my principal, and along with the school city of East Chicago. The population which we serve is very transient. Those who have cell phone numbers, we can use those numbers in the system. At times, those numbers don't work. This is what the ordinance is for. We're trying to push an ordinance that notifies the parents that anytime you move or you change contact information, you're required based upon the ordinance to notify the school so you can be held accountable. But same thing with addresses. We send out notarized letters, certified mail. They get returned back home because a large population of this community is impoverished.
You're right.
And with that being said, with them being transient between Illinois and Indiana, those are some of the struggles that we run into. But with the ordinance being enforced, it holds the parent accountable and they have to be informed. And once they're informed, they can be held accountable. And what happens in support of the East Chicago Police Department, along with the city courts, that pretty much is the muscle that we have to enforce these programs.
Can we maybe start pulling the kid over or stopping the kid and just asking him, you know, where are you going? How is it possible that you can roam the streets and you're supposed to be in school?
Let me tell you something, they do that every day.
Every day, okay.
That's almost like part of their job.
Okay.
When they're out there, if they see a kid and they look at their clock, oh, let me go around. They'll find them, they'll stop them, see where you're going. They'll call the school, see if he's supposed to be in school. They do that almost on an everyday basis. So that part of law enforcement, I'm very happy to say, they go above and beyond what they should be doing. But they will not allow children just to run the streets every day and say, oh, wait a minute, he's just walking down the street. No, let me stop up and see what he's up to. They do that all the time.
The main office. Most of the kids we bump into are suspended or expelled. But we do it all the time during day shift. It's when the guys are patrolling, they know what time school starts because we actually patrol the schools first thing in the morning. So our day shift guys are there. Once they're done patrolling the school, they are driving around. If they bump into a kid, they do stop the kid. And the first thing they do is find out what school do you go to. If the kid says they're suspended, we verify it anyway. So we'll call the main office. And it's been pretty good. We get a good response. Most of the kids I think we bumped into are from Block. But most of them are either suspended, not enrolled, or they're not even from here. So, but we've been doing it for a very long time.
Thank you.
But it's definitely part of our job.
It does help that we have 3 retired East Chicago police officers working for the school system. So we can always pick up the phone.
Yes.
Ex-Lieutenant Cheveria, Mr. Howard, and Mr. Rias all work for the school, so we all can pick up the phone and say, hey, I got this kid standing on the corner, you know, what's his issue? And they'll be able to say, okay, so-and-so was suspended, or he got sick, he got sent home, maybe he's walking home, so that does help.
Okay, thank you.
What happens when you do encounter them on the street and they are suspended, expelled from school? What are your message to them after you encounter them?
The parents allow it. Our main concern is make sure the kids that are supposed to be in school are in school. Once they're suspended, there's not much we can do. Legally, there's not much we can do. They've already been suspended. We don't even take them home. I'll be honest with you, unless they're causing a problem or somewhere they're not supposed to be at. Our main concern are the ones that are just ditching, the ones that are truant and should be in school. Those are the main ones we deal with. We haven't come across anything like that. It's not something that is a big problem that we've seen. Most of the kids, if they're not in school, it's because they're at home playing video games. They're not outside just walking the streets wandering. The majority of them are at home, and that's where we'll find them at. They're going to end up being at home. So that's why I think this program will work if we do home visits, because they're going to be at home. They're not going to be at the park. They're not going to be hanging out. Most of their friends are at school, so they're just going to be walking around. There's nothing to do. They'll rather be at home while their parents are gone playing video games. And that's why I think this program is going to work with us knocking on the doors and being able to verify that they're at the house.
Absolutely.
Another good thing about the program is that if a kid is cited for being truant, in the Gary City course, it's required that you submit a discipline report. You submit grades along with the attendance, because there's a direct correlation. If you're not in school, your grades aren't good. If your grades aren't good, chances are you're a problem. What I tell the kids is, you may not want to learn, but you're not going to take the classroom hostage and prevent everyone else from learning. So I think there's a threefold to that. And if you're truant, chances are your grades are poor. If your grades are poor, you don't really care about the education aspect. If you don't care about yours, you're sure not going to care about the person sitting next to you, in front of you, behind you. So I think that kind of ties everything together in a nutshell. But I'm excited about the program. It's research-based. It's worked. There are a lot of schools. Anything pretty much that is kind of considered urban in this area, academically, grade-wise, is average. And I think for Theodore Roosevelt College and Career Academy, which encompasses about 4 housing complexes, Dory Miller, Delaney, and which are some of the other ones? The Color Doors. There are a lot of urban housing complex young people that occupy that building. And we know what that kind of comes along with. And for that school to be able to turn that school around from an F grade to an A grade within 6 to 7 years, I think it's remarkable. I'm glad to say that I was a part of that process, even though I'm not there at the present moment. But I want the same thing for my city, not better. And this is why I think this is a key component to the process of increasing graduation rate, a key component to just changing our city, because if it's our young people that have been educated here and we can find a way to keep them here, then overall that builds up our community. It gives these guys less work to do, considering that the people that will be responsible for committing those crimes are actually being productive as a society with being at work like the rest of us. So I'm hopeful.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. It is a great program. You get results. I mean, because you gotta face it, we're dealing with a different age when, you know, when parents are younger, you got parents way younger than they used to be. And some parents are still childish themselves. You know, they're dealing with their children, so they're not getting what they need at home, because it all starts at home. You know, it starts at home. So if you being bad at home, you're gonna go to school and be bad. If you don't have no discipline at home, you're not gonna have no discipline in the streets. If you allowed to talk to your parents any kind of way, you're gonna go on the street and talk to people any kind of way. And so it all starts at home. You know, so parents have to be held accountable. And we are different. We are dealing with a different animal here. You know, so I commend you guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I hope if anything, me and I know these clergymen can do to help, we all 100% aboard.
I would like for all of the East Chicago clergy, if possible. I mean, the way I look at education, it's a service provider. We're providing service. You all as ministers, you're providing services as well to the people of this community. And I would love to see all of this come together, one umbrella, and serve as our community and change the best for this community, for the future, and the future to come. So,
Real quick, I know some of you guys showed up late. If everyone could just stand up real quick and say what congregation you're from, I appreciate it.
I'm Pastor Willie Johnson from the New Mission of Jesus Christ Church on Kennedy Avenue here in Chicago.
Pastor Mark Frazier, New Starlight Baptist Church, Guthrie.
Pastor James Hunter, Pastor Tabernacle Baptist Church on Butternut.
Pastor Levi, staff chaplain here at St. Catherine's Hospital. I pastor a Baptist church for the Great Station Baptist Church.
Pastor Calvin Fellows, I pastor Faith World Christian Center. I was actually here for about 10 years in East Chicago. We have a building in the harbor that we're trying to get open because we want to do a lot of what you're saying. I think the program here is awesome with this truancy, and you know, it's great what this young man is doing, and just everything, the principle and everything. But the church also plays a big part, and I mean a major part. And I just wanted to add, I think, Pastor, you asked the question about what can we do, what programs. That there are a lot of grants out there that people are willing to give away, that churches that are really willing to invest into, like young people. All you have to do is look into the grant. There is, if you got a grant writer, there's money out there to help you promote programs from your church.
So again, if you guys have any questions, if there's anything we can do for you guys, please let us know. Don't hesitate to call us. One thing that we do ask, you know, we're going through a hiring process right now. We're rotating two officers left and right to our department. I mean, we have the older guys retiring, yet we have the younger guys leaving as well, looking for greener pastures or whatnot. But if you could promote through your church, through your congregation, that we are looking for qualified applicants, you know, through the city. If they want to give back, this is the way to give back. Start, you know, at the police department. Another thing we're going to try to possibly do that we used to do back in the day, I know they had a program at the Central High School where they would teach kids that wanted to be police officers. Basically, a couple officers would go in maybe once or twice a week, and they would hold a class and basically give them, you know, the breakdown of what it was to be a police officer. Some guys want to do it, some people want to do it, but they're scared of what their friends might say and whatnot. Well, this is the opportunity for them to come in and, you know, express that, and if that's something they want to do, we're here to help them out 110%. And hopefully this is just the first of many meetings like this. We are going to try to do this again and get more people to come in and, you know, spread the word. So thank you again for coming in. I appreciate it. If you guys want to stick around, we're going to do a quick tour of the building, let you meet some of the friendly faces here at the police department and whatnot. And thank you again.
Thank you.
One question.